Good morning. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to provide an update about the incident that happened last night at MLK Park in the city of Rochester. At about 2:45 a.m., officers in the area of MLK Park heard what sounded like gunshots. Around the same time, the 911 center received multiple calls indicating that a person was possibly shot. Officers arrived quickly at the park and found a 33-year-old male suffering from at least one gunshot wound to the lower body. Due to the seriousness of the injury, officers immediately applied a tourniquet, and he was rushed to Strong Hospital with what ultimately was determined to be non-life-threatening injuries. As the investigation unfolded, an additional 5 victims were located and also treated for non-life-threatening injuries. These victims arrived at the hospital by various modes of transportation. One even went home before then going to the hospital. As the investigation unfolded, as I said, additional 5 victims. Preliminarily, it appears that a group was hanging out in the park after hours. The park closes at 10, when there was some sort of an argument. It is reported that at least one person pulled out a firearm and began to fire into the crowd before fleeing the scene. Due to the large size of the scene, multiple law enforcement agencies responded to assist, including our partners from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office and the New York State Police. Additionally, while continuing to work to disperse the crowd and provide treatment to the victims, 38-year-old Joshua Sanchez actively blocked the officers and then began to fight with officers. As a result of this, one officer was injured while taking Sanchez into custody. The officer was transported to a local hospital for treatment of a lower body injury. Sanchez has been taken to the Monroe County Jail. He is charged with assault second, obstructing governmental administration in the second degree, resisting arrest, and harassment in the second degree. He should be arraigned tomorrow morning, I would think. The Criminal Investigations Section Non-Fatal Shooting Unit is continuing to investigate the incident. Anyone with information is encouraged to call 911. The following victims were treated for non-life-threatening gunshot wounds, and I'll go through them. So a 33-year-old male was treated at the scene with a tourniquet by responding officers, taken to Strong with a non-life-threatening lower body injury. Second victim, a 17-year-old male, transported to Strong Hospital from the scene by ambulance with a non-life-threatening lower body injury. Third victim, an 18-year-old male, transported to Strong Hospital from the scene by ambulance with a non-life-threatening lower body injury. 21-year-old male, transported to Strong Hospital by private vehicle with a non-life-threatening lower body injury. A 25-year-old female transported to Rochester General Hospital by private vehicle with a non-life-threatening lower body injury. A 20-year-old female went to a private residence in Irondequoit before being transported to Strong Hospital with a non-life-threatening bodily injury. It is important to reiterate this incident occurred at 2:45 a.m., well after the park's closing hours. And again, the investigation is in its very early stages. We're seeking help from anyone who might have information. At this time, anyone who has information can call Crime Stoppers or can simply call 911. I'll take any questions.
Do we know if the individuals who were the victims who were shot, do we know if they were involved in this fight or if they were innocent bystanders?
At this time, it looks like they were all part of the same gathering, and then some sort of fight or altercation occurred amongst all the folks that were gathering together.
Does the police department have any idea who pulled out the weapon and fire?
Again, too early in the investigation. Details I'm not going to go into.
Can you tell us a little bit about the officer's injuries
He has probably what's going to pretty significant injury to one of his knees. He's probably going to be out of work for quite a bit, at the very least, this summer.
Do you know, given that the jazz festival is happening right now, were there any extra police in and around that area, given the proximity to the jazz festival during this time?
Well, yeah. So again, as I said, the shots were heard by officers in the area who responded immediately. At the same time, I also had officers on Parcel 5 that were dealing with a similar situation. And of course, we had the bar detail officers down at the East End, all of whom responded. Moving forward, I think we're going to, we always close the park at 10. We go through, we try and keep people out. I think we're going to have to up our security measures at the park moving forward for the week. But Jazz Festival was closed. It shut down at 11:30, as it always does. All the Jazz Festival folks were home. All the Jazz Festival officers, had secured for the night. So the ones that we had were ones that were, in the area for these type of events.
Do you expect any charges to be filed regarding the individuals who were injured, given the fact that you said that you're unsure of whether or not they were involved in what was going on?
Yeah, well, again, you can't rule anything out when it's this early in an investigation, right? So we don't know if it was one person with a gun, if it was more. We don't know what started the fight, and we probably won't know for a while. So we have to see how the investigation plays out.
Is Joshua Sanchez facing any more charges,
Possibly.
possibly?
Again, too early in the investigation, but he was arrested last night again for assaulting the officer.
Do you have an estimate on how many shots were fired? I know there are injured individuals. You can make an assumption based on that. But did anyone tell police how many gunshots they heard, or is there any kind of record of that?
Yeah, and we have conflicting reports on the number. So again, until we sort it all out, I'm not going to venture to guess. But obviously, more than 7.
Did you recover a weapon?
I'm not going to go into it at this point. Too early. Sorry. Yes.
Yesterday, I heard on the radio, you need everything you got, troopers, sheriffs, and more. When I was at the scene as well, I seen officers exhausted, bouldering pegs, just emotional at the scene. You want to talk about that a little bit, how stretched officers are dealing with these type of situations?
Well, as I've said many times, we rely on our partner agencies, and that's exactly who came in last night. You have to remember, these scenes are very chaotic. It is very hard to determine, quite frankly, who is suspect, who is victim, and what's going on, especially when you're dealing with crowds of this size. So again, our primary responsibility in these situations is to try and regain order, take charge, de-escalate the situation, and then sort things out. When you have people that are actively fighting with officers who are trying to render medical attention, obviously it makes it that much harder. So again, kudos to the hardworking men and women of the Rochester Police Department, and thanks to the Sheriff's Office and the State Police.
Would you say that there's increased activity like this downtown you've seen recently? You mentioned that there was a similar situation at Parcel 5 that may have drawn resources away while this was happening.
Yeah, no, crime-wise, not at all. This is a park. It's open to the public. It's summertime. People like to gather there, and unfortunately, sometimes things like this happen. But it does close at 10, and that certainly can be enforced. We have similar issues with Parcel 5, in that it's a park. So it's summer. People like to go and gather. Unfortunately, sometimes then people will be drinking or playing their music and disturbing, and things can escalate from that. When you're looking at shootings overall and crime overall, last June we had 29 shootings last June. Up until last night we had 6. Hopefully, a few more days left in June, we're still going to come in at the end of June well under 50% of the shootings that we had last year.
Is there going to be an increased police presence tonight in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be down there as well with some of my staff.
Thanks, everybody. Can you confirm, lastly, all the individuals taken to the hospital, were they all suffering from gunshot wounds, or was it injuries caused by something else?
There could have been other people with other injuries. The ones that I listed were all gunshot wounds.
Thank you.
Thank you.